Freedom is not an external circumstance, but an inner state of being, a subtle alignment of the soul with its own truth, unchained from the projections and expectations that swirl around it like shadowy phantoms. Many of you believe that freedom is something to be won, to be defended against the grasp of others who might seek to trap you. But the truth is that no one can truly imprison you unless you have already surrendered the sovereignty of your inner world. The chains that bind most of us are not forged by the hands of tyrants, but by the quiet, unconscious consent we give to the voices of fear, shame, and conformity that whisper within. You see, the greatest trap is not the one laid by another, but the one we weave ourselves when we fear stepping out of the roles that have been handed to us. You were taught to play a part, to wear a mask, the persona that keeps you acceptable, likable, predictable. But what you do not see is that the persona, though necessary as a social garment, can become a coffin for the soul when it is worn too tightly. It hides not only your shadow, the parts of you that you fear or reject, but also your most luminous potential. To stay free, you must understand the nature of these invisible traps. They are woven from archetypes, ancient patterns of thought and behavior that lie deep within the collective unconscious. Each of us carries within our psyche a drama as old as humanity itself, the hero who longs to break free, the mother who nurtures or devours, the trickster who mocks and deceives, the tyrant who rules and enslaves. When you are unaware of these forces, they do not disappear. They act through you, shaping your life in ways you cannot see. The person who tries to trap you may not even be aware that they are merely a vessel for one of these archetypal energies, attempting to bind you with roles, obligations, or guilt. I want you to imagine for a moment a dream. In this dream, you find yourself standing in a vast hall filled with mirrors. Each mirror reflects a different image of you. Some show you as a child, others as a lover, a warrior, a victim, a savior. As you look into each reflection, you feel pulled into it, as if that image is trying to convince you that it is your true self. But the deeper truth is that you are not any one of those reflections. You are the one who sees them. You are the awareness that exists behind all masks. This realization is the first key to freedom. When someone tries to trap you with their expectations or their manipulation, they are simply holding up one of these mirrors and saying, this is you, this is who you must be. But the awakened soul steps back and smiles, recognizing that no mirror can contain the totality of who you are. You are vast. You are both the light and the shadow, the known and the unknown. And when you embrace this wholeness, you become untrappable. However, this is not easy. The unconscious is cunning. It knows how to lure you back into the familiar prison of your habits and fears. This is why so many people, when confronted with the possibility of true freedom, feel a strange resistance. Freedom is not comfortable. It requires you to face your shadow, to see the parts of yourself that you have long disowned. And this is where the real work begins. To stay free, you must descend into the depths of your own being, into the underworld of your psyche where the shadow dwells, The shadow is everything you do not wish to see about yourself. Everything you have rejected, repressed, or labeled as unworthy, but it is not your enemy. In fact, it holds the very keys to your strength. Those who seek to control you will always exploit the parts of you that you have not made conscious, your hidden fears, your unacknowledged desires, your shame. When you bring these into the light of your awareness, they lose their power to enslave you. There is a myth, I often return to the myth of the labyrinth and the Minotaur. The labyrinth is the twisted network of illusions, half-truths, and projections that we all get lost in. The Minotaur, hidden at its center, is the shadow wild, frightening, and yet holding a treasure of immense power. Most people run from the labyrinth, fearing its darkness, but the hero, the one who becomes truly free, enters willingly, armed, not with arrogance, but with the thread of awareness. You must be willing to meet your own Minotaur, to confront the dark impulses and wounds that lurk within you. Only then can you find the treasure of authentic freedom. Many of you have been trapped for years, not by external enemies, but by the belief that your worth depends on the approval of others. This is one of the oldest lies of the psyche, that you must be loved, accepted, or validated by the outside world in order to feel real. But I tell you, the soul does not crave approval, it craves expression. It longs to unfold its true nature, even if that nature is misunderstood or rejected. When you shift your focus from pleasing others to being authentic, a strange alchemy occurs. The chains that once bound you begin to fall away. Do not be fooled, however, into thinking that freedom is a final destination, a permanent state of bliss. Freedom is a practice, a constant returning to yourself amidst the chaos of life. Every day you will face new traps, subtle pressures to conform, to hide, to compromise your truth. The task is not to avoid these entirely, but to remain awake as they arise, to ask yourself again and again, am I acting from fear or from freedom? Am I choosing this path because it is true to me, or because it is what others demand? There is also a spiritual dimension to this freedom, one that transcends the ego and the personal will. True freedom comes when you align yourself with the self, the archetype of wholeness that represents the deepest truth of who you are. The self is not your personality, not your achievements, not even your story. It is the divine spark, the eternal center of your being. When you live from this center, the opinions of others lose their power to trap you. You become like a tree rooted deeply in the earth. Storms may come, but you do not break. I have often spoken of the individuation process, the journey of becoming who you truly are. This is not a path for the faint of heart. It requires you to question everything you have been taught, to shed the layers of false identity that have been placed upon you. It is like peeling away the bark of an old tree, revealing the living, breathing core beneath. But once you have tasted even a drop of this authenticity, you will never again be content with living as a shadow of yourself. Let me tell you a story. The young woman once came to me, burdened by a sense of being trapped in a life that did not feel like her own. She was surrounded by people who loved her, yet she felt suffocated by their expectations. Every decision she made seemed to be for someone else, her parents, her partner, her friends. She told me, "I feel like I am disappearing. I don't know who I am anymore." I asked her to describe a dream that had stayed with her. She told me of a dream in which she was in a cage, but the door of the cage was wide open. Outside, there was a forest filled with light, but she was too afraid to step out. This is the condition of many souls. The cage is not locked, the door is open, but we remain inside because the forest, the unknown, terrifies us. Freedom requires the courage to step beyond that threshold, to trust that the self will guide us even when the path is unclear. I told her, the forest is not your enemy. It is your life waiting to be lived. You must walk into it, even if your legs tremble. In your own life, you may sense this open door. Perhaps you have stayed in situations, jobs, relationships, roles, because they feel safe, even though they drain your spirit. You tell yourself that leaving would be too risky, too uncertain. But ask yourself, is it not a greater risk to remain where you are, to trade your soul for the illusion of safety? True freedom requires a leap of faith, a willingness to face uncertainty with an open heart, to stay free, no matter who tries to trap you. You must learn to listen to the quiet voice within the voice of the self, which whispers through your dreams, your intuition, your sudden moments of clarity. This voice does not shout, it does not manipulate, it speaks in symbols, in images, in the strange and poetic language of the unconscious. Pay attention to your dreams. They are letters from the soul, guiding you toward the life that is truly yours. When you begin to pay attention to these messages from within, you start to see how often your life has been shaped by forces you did not consciously choose. You may notice that certain people have a strange power over you, not because they are inherently stronger, but because they reflect something unresolved in your psyche. Someone criticizes you, and you feel crushed not because their words carry truth, but because they strike at a wound you have not healed. Another person offers you approval, and you feel compelled to bend yourself into whatever shape will please them, as if their acceptance were the key to your existence. But in truth, these are illusions. The real key lies within you, waiting to be claimed. Freedom begins when you stop seeking yourself in the gaze of others. It is not that you must reject people or become isolated, but that you must no longer be ruled by their opinions. Whether praise or blame, Carl Jung once wrote that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. To achieve this, you must risk the disapproval of those who prefer the mask you have been wearing. You must be willing to step into the forest, even if you walk alone. This does not mean becoming reckless or selfish. True freedom is not an escape from responsibility, but a deeper alignment with the responsibilities that arise from your authentic self. You are not free if you are enslaved by your own ego's desires, or by the endless need to prove yourself, you are free when your actions flow from the quiet center of your being. When you can say yes or no without fear. When you can stand in your truth even if no one applauds. I want you to imagine that life is like a river. Most people are not truly swimming. They are carried along by the current, tossed this way and that by the demands of the world. They may think they are free, but they are merely drifting. The one who is truly free is the one who dives beneath the surface, who feeds the deeper currents of the soul and chooses when and how to move. Sometimes freedom is not about swimming against the current, but about going deeper where the noise of the surface cannot reach you. But let us speak honestly. There will always be those who seek to trap you. Sometimes they do this unconsciously because they fear losing control or fear facing their own shadows. Sometimes they do it knowingly because your freedom reminds them of their own chains. They may use guilt, manipulation, or fear to hold you in place, but understand this: no one can truly imprison a soul that has awakened to its own power. They can bind your body, they can smear your reputation, but they cannot touch the self, the eternal, unshakable core of who you are. To remain free, you must cultivate an inner space of silence, a place where you can return to yourself no matter what storm rages outside. This inner sanctuary is not built overnight. It is forged through practices of reflection, dream work, and honest self-examination. You must dare to look at your own shadow, to see where you yourself may have tried to trap others, or even yourself, out of fear. Freedom is not a weapon to wield against others. It is a mirror that shows you both your chains and your wings. There is another dream I wish to share with you. In this dream, a man stands at the edge of a vast desert. In his hand, he carries a key. Though he does not know what it opens, a voice whispers to him, you are free to go wherever you wish. But if you take one step forward, you will lose everything, you know. The man hesitates, torn between the comfort of the known and the promise of the unknown. He looks behind him and sees the shadows of all who have stayed behind, trapped in their own fear. Finally, he steps forward, and as he does, the desert blooms with flowers, and he realizes that the key he carried all along was not meant to open a door outside of him, but to unlock his own heart. This is the nature of true freedom. It is not granted to you by another, nor can it be taken from you. It is a blooming of the soul that comes when you stop clinging to what is safe and step into what is real. The path of individuation, the journey to becoming who you truly are, demands courage. It will confront you with the parts of yourself that you would rather not see. Perhaps you have been hiding behind a mask of competence, pretending to be strong when inside you feel small and uncertain. Or perhaps you have clung to a mask of weakness, convincing yourself that you are powerless, when in truth you are afraid of the responsibility that comes with your strength. To be free, you must take off these masks. It is a painful process, like tearing away layers of old skin, but beneath them lies the raw, living truth of who you are. Do not think that once you find this truth, your life will be free of challenges. On the contrary, the world often resists those who live authentically. Your freedom may provoke fear or envy in others. You may be misunderstood, criticized, even rejected. But this too is part of the path. For every person who tries to trap you, there is also someone who will be inspired by your courage. When you live as your true self, you become a mirror for others, not a mirror that traps them, but one that awakens them to their own possibilities. There is a certain solitude in freedom, but it is a sacred solitude. It is not loneliness, for when you are connected to your deepest self, you feel a bond with all life. You begin to see that every person you meet is also wearing masks, also wrestling with their own shadows. And instead of judging them or fearing them, you can meet them with compassion. You can say, I see you, I see beyond the mask, and in that moment you are free, and you offer them a glimpse of their own freedom. To stay free, you must also understand the role of projection. Often we see in others what we cannot accept in ourselves. We project our own shadow onto them, making them the villain or the hero, the captor or the savior. But when you recognize a projection for what it is, you reclaim a piece of your power. You realize that no one is truly trapping you. It is your own unacknowledged fear or desire that creates the illusion of a cage. Take time to reflect on who in your life seems to hold power over you. Ask yourself, what do they represent? What part of me am I seeing in them? What would happen if I stopped giving them that power? These are not easy questions, but they are necessary. If you wish to walk as a free soul, remember, freedom is not about doing whatever you want. It is about acting in alignment with your inner truth, even when it is difficult, even when it costs you something. True freedom often requires sacrifice. You may have to let go of certain relationships, certain comforts, certain illusions about yourself. But in letting go, you gain something far greater. You gain your soul. There is a silence, a stillness that arises when you are truly free. It is like standing on a mountain peak above the noise and confusion of the world. From this place, you can see clearly, you can see how small most of the traps really are, how flimsy the chains. You realize that much of what you feared was only a shadow, a reflection of your own mind. And with this clarity, you can walk through life with a quiet strength, unshaken by the attempts of others to control or confine you. I speak to you now as if I am standing in that mountain wind, looking into your eyes. You are not meant to live as a prisoner of other people's fears. You are not meant to be caged by the wounds of your past. You are a being of immense depth and mystery, carrying within you the same archetypal fire that has guided humanity since the dawn of time. You are the hero who can enter the labyrinth and return with the treasure. You are the dreamer who can awaken within the dream. When you awaken to these truths, the whole texture of your life begins to change. You no longer see people merely as obstacles or allies, but as mirrors, each reflecting back to you some part of your own psyche. Even those who try to control you, who attempt to box you into roles that are too small for your spirit, are teachers. They show you where your boundaries must be strengthened, where your inner authority must rise. And as you recognize these lessons, you find that freedom is less about running away and more about standing firmly where you are. Rooted like a tree whose roots sink deep into the soil of its own being. Freedom is not rebellion for its own sake. It is not the defiance of all rules or the rejection of all structures. It is the deep knowing of which structures nourish your soul and which ones suffocate it. Just as a tree needs the structure of its trunk and branches to grow, the human soul also needs a certain order, a certain rhythm. But when these structures are imposed from outside, when they do not arise from the truth of who you are, they become prisons. The art of freedom is discerning which structures you have chosen consciously and which have been forced upon you. I have seen many people mistake the longing for freedom as a desire to destroy everything in their lives, to cast away all ties and obligations. But true freedom is more subtle than that. It does not require you to leave the world or to abandon those you love. It asks only that you be fully present, that you act not from compulsion but from choice. It is possible to be free even within a marriage, within a job, within the daily routines of life. If those roles are chosen with awareness and love, conversely, you can be unfree even while traveling the world. If your actions are driven by fear, resentment, or the need to escape yourself, there is a dream that often appears in times of inner transformation. In this dream, the dreamer finds themselves in a house, but the rooms are small and dark, the windows barred. As the dream progresses, they discover a hidden door, and beyond it lies a vast garden filled with light and fresh air. This dream is a symbol of the psyche itself. The house represents the structures of the ego, necessary but limited. The garden is the self, expansive and alive. To step into the garden, the dreamer must have the courage to open the hidden door. This door is often guarded by fear, by the voice that says, "You cannot change. You must stay where you are." But when the dreamer steps through, they realize that the garden was always there, waiting. So it is with your own freedom. The garden of your soul is not something you must build from scratch. It already exists beneath the layers of conditioning and fear. To access it, you must be willing to face the shadow that guards the gate. You must be willing to see where you have betrayed yourself by pretending to be something you are not. This is not the task of a single day. It is a lifelong journey. Each step toward authenticity is a step toward freedom. You will know you are walking this path when you begin to feel a strange mixture of fear and exhilaration. Fear because you are stepping out of the known, out of the roles that once defined you. Exhilaration because you are tasting your own aliveness. This tension between fear and joy is the sign that you are close to the truth. Do not run from it. Sit with it. Breathe into it. Allow it to guide you. I remember a man who once came to me, desperate to break free from the expectations of his family. He felt suffocated, as if his entire life had been scripted for him before he was even born. He dreamed of running away, of severing all ties, but as we spoke, I realized that what he truly sought was not escape, but integration. He needed to find a way to live authentically while still honoring the parts of himself that were bound to his family. I told him, you cannot be free by cutting off pieces of yourself. Freedom is wholeness. It is the ability to embrace all that you are, even the parts shaped by others, and to make them your own. This is a crucial truth. You cannot achieve freedom by denying your shadow, by pretending that you are pure light. You are both light and shadow, both conscious and unconscious. The more you try to suppress one side of yourself, the more power it gains over you. But when you bring both sides into awareness, when you can hold them in your heart without judgment, you become whole, and wholeness is freedom. Imagine that your life is a tapestry, woven from threads of many colors. Some of these threads are bright and joyful. Your talents, your passion, your moments of love. Others are dark and heavy. Your wounds, your fears, your regrets. Many people try to cut out dark threads, believing that they spoil the beauty of the whole. But the dark threads are necessary. They give depth and contrast. Without them, the tapestry would be flat and lifeless. Freedom is not about erasing the darkness. It is about weaving it into something meaningful. When you accept the totality of who you are, no one can use your shadow against you. Think of how often you have felt trapped by someone's judgment or criticism. They point to your flaws and you shrink because deep down you believe them. But when you have faced your shadow, when you have looked into the depths of your own being and made peace with what you find, their judgment no longer holds power. You can say, yes, I have darkness in me, but I am not ashamed. It is part of my wholeness. This is a freedom that no one can take away. There is a sacred fire in each of us, a fire that longs to burn brightly, to illuminate the world. But this fire is often covered by layers of ash, the expectations of others, the fear of failure, the wounds of the past. To stay free, you must tend this fire. You must clear away the ash again and again until the flame of your soul burns steady and true. This is not a one-time act, but a daily practice. Each day, you will be tempted to let the fire dim, to conform, to silence your truth. But each day, you also have the choice to feed the flame, to listen to the quiet voice within that says, this is who I am. Do not be discouraged when you stumble. Freedom is not about perfection. It is about persistence. It is about returning again and again to the truth of who you are. No matter how many times you forget, every setback, every moment of doubt is an invitation to go deeper, to discover more of your own strength. I say these words to you as if we were sitting together in a quiet hall, the air charged with something sacred. Perhaps you can feel it now, the stirring in your heart, the faint whisper of the self calling you home. It is not a loud voice. It will not force you. It waits patiently, like a friend who knows that you will one day return. All you must do is listen. When you listen deeply, you will notice that freedom is less about external conditions and more about the way you hold life within your own heart. You could be walking through a world filled with demands, conflicts, and expectations, and yet feel completely free because you are no longer negotiating your worth with what is outside of you. The moment you stop seeking permission to exist as you are, a profound shift occurs. It is as if the walls around you dissolve, revealing that you were never truly trapped, only convinced that you were. But this realization does not come through intellectual understanding alone. It is born from direct experience, from those moments when you dare to act from your authentic center. Even when it terrifies you, think of a time when you spoke a truth that you had long kept buried, or when you chose a path that no one else understood. In those moments, did you not feel the fire of life itself burning brighter within you? That is the essence of freedom. It is alive, rough, and uncontainable. I remember once sitting with a man who told me that he felt like a prisoner of his own life. Every decision he made seemed to be dictated by what others expected. He said, I feel like I'm living someone else's story. I asked him to close his eyes and imagine his life as a great stage. On that stage, where all the people who had shaped him, his parents, teachers, lovers, friends, I asked him to see each of them stepping back one by one until the stage was empty and silent. Then I said, now walk to the center, stand there. Who are you when no one is watching? He sat quietly for a long time, tears streaming down his face. I don't know, he whispered. And I told him, good, that is the beginning. True freedom begins when the old masks fall away and you stand in the mystery of your own being, ready to discover what lies beneath. We are often afraid of this mystery. We cling to familiar identities even when they hurt us, because the unknown feels dangerous. But the unknown is not our enemy, it is our birthright. It is the space where new life can emerge, where the soul can breathe freely. The old self must die for the new self to be born, just as winter must come before spring. This death is not literal, but symbolic. It is the death of the false, the death of the persona that no longer serves you. In myth, this process is often depicted as a descent into the underworld. The hero must go down into the dark, face the monsters that dwell there, and return with a treasure. This treasure is the self whole, free and luminous. But you cannot reach this treasure without courage. You must be willing to face the fear of being alone, the fear of being misunderstood, the fear of losing everything you thought you were. Only then can you find the freedom that no one can take away. I have spoken much about the shadow, but I want you to understand something deeper. The shadow is not only what you fear, it is also what you secretly desire, what you long to express, but have repressed. Many of us live in cages built from our own unspoken desires. We tell ourselves that certain parts of us are unacceptable, unworthy, or dangerous, and yet those parts hold immense energy, creativity, and vitality. To reclaim your freedom, you must open the door to these hidden aspects of yourself. You must ask, what have I been afraid to feel? What have I been afraid to want? What parts of me have I locked away, thinking they were too wild or too strange? When you begin to welcome these parts home, something miraculous happens. The inner war quiets, the soul begins to feel whole again. And from this wholeness, you can no longer be manipulated by those who seek to trap you. They may say, you are too much, or you are not enough, but their words will not stick, because you know that you are both dark and light, both strong and tender, both imperfect and divine. There is a deep and timeless freedom in accepting your humanity fully. You are not here to be flawless. You are here to live, to feel, to grow. The more you embrace this, the less you fear the judgments of others. The world may still try to trap you, but you will see these attempts for what they are, projections, born of other people's fears and shadows. And instead of reacting with anger or defensiveness, you can simply smile, knowing that their traps cannot hold the vastness of who you are. Imagine standing in front of a mirror, not just the mirror of your physical face, but the mirror of your soul. What do you see? Perhaps you see the child you once were, full of wonder and innocence. Perhaps you see the wounds that shaped you, the battles you fought. Perhaps you see the dreams that still burn quietly within you. Look deeply. Do not turn away. This is you raw, imperfect, and magnificent. When you can look at yourself in this way, without shame or denial, you become unshakable. Freedom also means taking responsibility for your life. This is a truth many people resist. They want freedom without responsibility. But the two cannot be separated. To be free, you must own your choices, your actions, your path. You must stop blaming others for your unhappiness and recognize that you have the power to create meaning in every situation. This does not mean ignoring injustice or harm done to you. It means refusing to let those experiences define or diminish you. I will tell you something profound. Even when someone tries to trap you, they cannot succeed unless you unconsciously agree to it somewhere within you. There is always a choice, perhaps not over the circumstances themselves, but over how you respond, how you interpret, how you carry the weight. Viktor Frankl, who survived the horrors of the concentration camps, once said that the last of human freedoms is the freedom to choose one's attitude. This is what I mean by an inner sovereignty that cannot be taken from you. And so I invite you to claim this sovereignty now. Close your eyes, if you wish, and feel the center of your being, the place that is unmovable, untouchable. Feel how vast you are, how ancient, how connected to something greater than all the roles and expectations. This center is your true home. When you live from this place, you are like a bird that cannot be caged. The world may build walls, but you will always find the sky. This is my advice to you. Stay close to yourself. Do not abandon your inner voice for the noise of the crowd. Do not trade your authenticity for approval. Do not give your power to those who cannot see your soul. There will be times when you falter, when you forget, when you find yourself caught again in the old traps. But each time you can return. Each time you can remember that you were never meant to live small or silent. Life will test you. It will send people and situations that challenge your freedom. But each test is an invitation to grow stronger, to deepen your roots, to trust your own path. The soul that has faced its shadow, that has walked through the labyrinth and met the Minotaur, emerges with a light that cannot be dimmed. This is the light I see in you now. Even if you do not yet see it yourself, I want you to take these words not as abstract ideas, but as living truths. Ask yourself, where in my life do I feel trapped? What chains am I holding on to out of fear? What would it mean for me to step into the forest of my own being? To walk beyond the cage, to trust that the self will guide me. Freedom is not given. It is claimed, it is lived. It is discovered in the quiet courage of the heart that says, I will not betray myself. So I leave you with this. May you have the courage to listen to your dreams, to face your shadow, to trust your intuition. May you know that you are larger than any trap, brighter than any darkness, freer than any chain. And may you remember always that the world cannot take what it did not give, the soul's eternal freedom.